majority of photographers are introverts, right? That's part of the reason why they're behind the camera, right? And that could be very true. You are right. There's some introvert photographers that do amazing work, but that's where something that I picked up last year, where I'm starting to think that way. And you may disagree. Some of our viewers may be like, nah, you got to be a photographer first. I don't really see myself a photographer first anymore. The reason being is I see myself more like a businessman, because when you see yourself as running a business than a photographer, you kind of separate your feelings from your work, right? Don't get me wrong, I love what I do, uh, but I'm looking at it from a perspective of a business where, man, I got to pay the rent, I got to feed the kids, I got
Right.
diapers, milk to buy, right?
Right. Because this is your
So
full time, right?
this is my full time, right? So for me, is I gotta be part of that sales, right? And in the beginning, when I started, I didn't want to be the brand name, right? I didn't want my face out there. I'm like, I don't want to be, I don't want people to think I'm so self-absorbed. I need to have a
Mhm.
camera in front of me and look at what I'm doing, look how much fun I'm having. But in reality, you kind of have to be able to sell your brand, right? Like
Right.
you got to step out of your comfort zone, right?
Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Shutter Hustle podcast. My name is Jorge Rodriguez. I am your host today. You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok at imagesbyjrod.tx. Man, I'm excited for today's episode. We have a very special guest by the name of David Cumatz with Cumatz Photography, based out of LA. It's LA, right?
Yes, based out of LA for sure.
Based out of LA. I know he's in California, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself a little bit. But let me tell you a little bit of the backstory of how we met, and then I'll let him tell his version because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make up a bunch of stuff that don't make sense. But we met at a quinceañera. What was it again? It was like a quinceañera training boot camp here in
Something like
Dallas.
that, a workshop. Yeah.
Yeah, hosted by one of the Dallas photographers here. And man, we kicked it off. We hung out. He flew in just for this boot camp. Man, David is a very cool dude, and I'm excited that you're on the show. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule today to be on the show with us, man. How you doing? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. It is sunny California, and today it is hot, bro. So I'm glad I'm indoors. I'm not outside, man. It's good.
What's the weather out there right now, bro?
According to this, we're at 78 degrees, man, but it feels like it's 85 or 90, bro. Like it's hot.
Yeah, no, man.
Yeah.
I was born in California, Los Angeles,
Oh,
and I didn't tell you that when we met because I don't like to steal the show from other people. But
all
yeah, I was
right.
born out there. I migrated to Texas when I was like 9. So,
Okay.
yeah, about 2 years ago, we went back with my kids to go visit, and it was, the best. We went to Universal Studios. We stayed by the beach. It was fun, bro.
It's good to visit, right? Yeah, it's good to come back and check it
Expensive
out.
and then the traffic, bro. I don't know if I could deal with the
Yeah.
traffic out there.
Yeah, that 405, that you makes you want to not be here, man. If you had to commute every day, so I'm glad I don't do that, man.
For
That's
sure.
good.
For sure. Hey, bro. Well, I mean, tell all the listeners, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how'd you got started in photography? What type of photography you shoot, and let's go from there, homie.
So hey everyone, so I'm David Kumatz. Like Jorge said, I'm based out of LA. Basically raised out here. I literally got started with photos not too long ago. Well, I like to think it's not too long ago, but roughly about I want to say 6, 7 years. I've always had this passion for photography. I didn't really quite understood how much I loved it. So in the past, growing up, I would always, especially when the cell phones came out with cameras, I would always just load up my camera with a bunch of photos of stuff, people, all the things I would do. And the one bad habit I had was I would never erase anything. So somewhere in some cloud is a bunch of photos from, from whenever the cell phones had good cameras, right? That being said, I just love taking photos. And a few years ago, I want to say about 6, 7 years ago, I decided I told my wife I want to buy myself a birthday present. I want to get myself one of those like fancy DSLRs, and I'm thinking, expensive, like $500-600, right? Not knowing how expensive this hobby slash career can get, right? So
Right.
we go out and I buy myself one of those Canon starter kits. It comes with a Rode mic, and it comes with all the things that you need to be a starting filmmaker, right? So the goal was like, I'm just gonna take photos. I love doing what just taking family photos and captivating the kids and all that, right? And like within a month, that sucker like bit me, man. I got so into it, started watching YouTube videos, got influenced by everybody on YouTube, basically, YouTube University. And I went from not knowing anything about cameras to within a month, I'm like, I need to buy myself the Canon 5D Mark IV. And I looked at the price, I was like, what? That's ridiculous. But I'm like, you know what? Why not? Right. But at this point, I had no idea I wanted to do events or weddings or quinceañera. My goal was I just want that camera because it looks dope, right? So somehow, not that, I had to convince, but I had to talk to the wife and, explain to her why I was going from like $1,000 camera to like a $4,000 body plus another lens. So, short story, man, I bought that thing, and I got started in the event industry by convincing my wife that I was gonna print out, business cards, and I was gonna do one event a month to pay for the camera, and so whatever that was, right? Whether it be a baby shower, a quinceañera, a wedding, or helping somebody take photos, and I thought it was easy money because I'm gonna go out and charge $1,000 or 2,000, not having any idea how the industry actually works on that end. But that's essentially how I got started, man. I went from there and just buying and collecting gear until finally it kind of snapped that I really love doing quinceañera work. I really love doing weddings and that type of event. So that's long story short, that's kind of how I got started, man.
Oh, that's incredible, bro. Very incredible. That's I think that's kind of like the journey that all of us start, right? And
Right.
obviously you got passionate about the way once you started that journey. But what did you do before photography? What was your career before that?
So interestingly enough, man, straight out of high school, I had a bunch of little jobs, right? Like little filler jobs. I was security guard for a few months. I was a construction, but not even construction worker, man, more like a assistant to an electrician. And I did a bunch of jobs. But I ended up working, finally got a job that was pretty steady, working for a rep agency that represented LED lighting. So at the time, this was like brand new for me, at least back in like 2007, right? So I started selling, I started programming. So to give you an example, if you've ever been to LA and flown out of LAX, you see those pylon towers that color change. That's basically what the company sold. And they would have me either sell it slash go and program it with the laptop. So not too many guys, I wouldn't say can do that. I still actually once in a while, I get called and say, "Hey, man, we need help." They'll fly me out, or they'll send me somewhere pretty cool. But I did that for about 15 years, man, of basically programming LEDs. So, and now that also connected me with cameras because the company also did a lot of entertainment stuff. So I
Right.
got involved with working with sometimes with studios, like a Fox or like a CVS. We would drop off lighting, and I got to know some of those rental houses that did the concert touring or they did the design for amphitheater, things like that. So lighting was always in the background where they actually taught me how to light correctly a subject, whether it be an office, whether it be a play, whether it be for production work or in general, right? And that kind of stuck with me. So when I came to photography and film on that end, lighting was like natural to me. So that was like a big key for me. So I kind of love that I do have that background in
That's
that.
cool, bro. That's incredible. That's who would have thought, right? You in that business, that industry for 15 years was gonna eventually, serve a purpose until what you're
Oh,
doing right now, following your passion, right?
for sure, man, for sure. I mean, if I do recall, I was actually reminiscing on this not too long ago. We did a lot of expos, right? So we had to do expos to show off the lighting, what the newest and lighting would do. But I remember there was one time we had downtime, and they were for whatever reason they had a photography class in that expo, right? And so I remember taking a class where I mean it was just like a 1 hour uh like class of what photography was. In that case, they were talking about landscape and architectural, and that was like the first time I got introduced to like golden hour, when to correctly photograph a building, half an hour after sunset, half an hour before sunset, and there was that 1 hour, what kind of lenses to use. And at the time, I'm like, you know what, this is kind of interesting. It looks cool, but I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I still think about that class. I also got I got actually the privilege, because we did a lot of lighting for the entertainment side. We had a lighting, I believe it was a lighting person with the Academy of Science, which is basically like the Oscars. And he talked about why lighting is essential. And that class I do remember being excited about, because he talked about how important lighting was, right? And because we're all lighting people in that classroom, he talked about the importance of shadows and lighting. And then he talked about iconic things, like he said, think about that movie Casablanca, right? When
Yeah.
Humphrey Bogart turns around and says, "Here's looking at you, kid," right? He goes, the audio is perfect, right? The dialogue is great, but if the lighting would have been off, right? If the shadows are in the incorrect place, he goes, that scene gets destroyed. And for the first time, I thought about how important lighting is to a scene. And I never really sat down and thought about that, because I always enjoy cinema, but I never really thought about, like, if the lighting is off, forget the audio and the dialogue and maybe the acting, but if the lighting is off, but everything else is well, how that can be destroyed, right? Or isn't as memorable as a line like in Casablanca, right? So to
Right.
me, that really hit it off, and that's when I started thinking about, man, I think I'm starting to like the camera stuff and the lighting all to put together on that end.
Oh, that's awesome. That's an incredible story, dude. And I appreciate that information that you're sharing, man, because a lot of us, I would say we started off with a passion. We got into this industry because we wanted we have a passion for photography or capturing special moments. And again, going back to like, you have taken some steps in your career that has helped you prepare to get you to where you are. That's an amazing story, bro. And I love hearing stuff like that, man.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, I'm happy I was able to experience it, because it does help a lot, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you pick up a camera and you are the first one, like in your family, right? Like you don't come from a family of photographers, right? Like your parents, your uncles, nobody knows about it, right? And then you're that one person in the family. They're like, oh yeah, he's a photographer now, I guess. I don't know, is
Yeah,
he
yeah.
little face again? But that it's one of those where now you got to learn everything that other people, for example, now that I have a son, he picks up a camera and sometimes he asks me a question and I'm able to answer that. And that's kind of cool because I can guide him. But if I think about it, like for me, it was a lot of YouTube, man. It was a lot of those influencers on YouTube showing you, like, oh, do your camera this way, or you want to have a cool shot, do this, do that, or introduction of flash, right? When you pick up your camera, sometimes you don't know about flash, so you're doing all natural, right? And then when you start using Flash, then you start connecting things where, like, oh yeah, that's what Flash and shadows, and how to be able to tell a story a little bit different. So yeah, I really love that, man.
Awesome, bro. Awesome. I love to hear that, man. And we're gonna keep talking about how you got to where are right now, as we go down this interview. And I don't like to talk about an interview, man. It's more of a conversation, bro. You know what I mean?
Well, hopefully I get hired after this, man.
Bro, I am looking for a co-host. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
there you go, man.
if you're looking for to do something side, aside
Yeah.
for
Hey,
fun
man,
and get to
I
know
could
the
I could
photographers.
do the LA chapter of the podcast,
Oh,
man,
the
and get some
Shutter Hustle
people here.
podcast, bro. LA. Yeah, no. Hey, I
Yeah.
love that idea, man. But let's
Oh,
take a step back, bro. You know what I mean?
for sure.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Like, were you born in LA? Do you have, are you married? I know you mentioned you have a wife. Do you have any
Right.
kids? Let us know about a little bit about that.
So, yes, I wasn't born in LA, man. I was actually born in Guatemala, so I'm out of Central America. But they brought me really, really young, man. They brought me at the age of 1. And I pretty much grew up here, man. This was it. I grew up here. I want to say I don't really know anything other than being here in the LA culture, but being Hispanic, being that we immigrated from another country, we do have a little bit of I want to say a different perspective, right? You have that whole Hispanic culture where, at least in my household, it was 100% Spanish, man. In fact, I
Right.
still remember we were talking about it with a family member last time that when I was in like middle school, they put me in ESL and I was like, what? Like I know how to
Yeah.
speak English, right? But in reality, it was because when they filled out those paperwork, Spanish only, right? So then they said, oh, obviously he doesn't speak English, his primary language. So I just remember, Spanish speaking with family, and then at school it was all English. So that's the difference, right? Like we come with that, or at least from my perspective, we come from that dynamic of we have this whole world of Spanish speaking, and then we have this whole world of English speaking, right? The culture of what America is for us, right? On that,
Yeah.
and so I kind of love it because you have a little bit of both worlds, right? Especially around the holidays, right? We don't always celebrate with turkey and all that, right? It's tamales or pozole or whatever it is, right?
Right. Awesome, bro.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, bro. So you were born in Guatemala. That's a tidbit that I did not know, bro. At what age again did you move from
One,
over here to the United States?
one. They brought me at one, man.
At one. So you're a little baby. So yeah.
I pretty much
Well,
grew up here, man. I
for
pretty
sure,
much.
bro, for sure. So what part of Guatemala? Because my dad is from Guatemala, so that's why I was like, what? I didn't know that. Te miras, tienes cara de chapín. That means you got a
Yeah, they
Guatemalan
do have it,
face.
man. So, like, I'll show you. I'll share two things, right?
Okay.
So, I was born in the city of Guatemala.
La
That's where mom
capital?
was residing. Yeah, the capital. And I pretty much just was waiting for me to come back. I mean, the funny story was I was supposed to be born here, right? And my mom was like, "You were supposed to be born here, but I went back because your brothers were over there. We had to visit them. When I tried to get back in the airplane, they wouldn't let me because I was too far along, and they were afraid, flying, being pregnant. So they
Right.
made be born over there. They're like, you're supposed to be born around the house, but you were born over there, and then the whole situation bringing me back, right? That being said, though, yes, born over there. My last name, this is a tidbit that I don't think anybody, I haven't ever shared that outside of the family, is that the last name is Mayan descent. So Cumatz, it's
Okay.
actually from Mayan descent. It goes all the way back according to certain things. Ya me hice negro, hold on.
Oh, me siento negro. So what's happening, y'all? Right now, he was telling us where his descent or his last name came from, and in the middle, for those that are listening to the podcast, again, this is our first time doing Zoom, and we try to do a prep, but sometimes things happen just like in life, and his light just kind of died out on him. So as he's trying to switch out the battery, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a poll out on Instagram, just to see what kind of questions we have for David, so that way I can get some feedback from the people to see if they have questions, what they want to know about him, and we can go from there. So as you continue your story, homie,
Yeah,
he's got his light back on. I'm gonna put a quick poll out on Instagram and see if we can get some of the followers to see if they have any questions for you. All right, bro?
sounds good, man. So, like I was saying, the last name, man, comes from descendant of Mayans. And according to the sources that we read, the last name is part of one of the original tribes that founded Guatemala from the Mayans. So, how accurate it is, I gotta really, get those sources. But yeah, in fact, my last name is a word in one of the dialects from Guatemala. So just a little tidbit, man. That's how
Nice.
straight out Guatemalan I am, I guess, or
Eh,
Hispanic at that point, or
100,
native, I guess I would say.
100% chapín.
Yeah, I guess, right?
Uh-huh.
Although the
That's
kids aren't anymore, man, because kids. My wife is born here, but her parents are Mexican, and I was born in Guatemala, and now they're born here, so a little bit of mixture of everything at that point now.
That's awesome, bro. Well, I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your background, man. That's
No
interesting
worries.
to hear more about you as we learn more of who David is, right? So,
Sure.
let's talk about your photography style, bro. Well, I always ask this: what kind of cameras or gear do you use?
So I'm a Canon shooter, man, and it goes back to where I bought the first camera. I went to Best Buy and said, "Look, I'm looking for a camera." Canon has always had a brand recognition, right? So everybody said Canon. At the time, it was Nikon. I think I part of me was almost a Nikon shooter because of the commercials where they got really popular with Ashton Kutcher. He was doing like Nikon commercials back in the day with those point and shoot. So I was thinking of buying one of those. I'm like, I remember those commercials. Maybe I'll get a Nikon, and I ended up buying a Canon, and I just stuck with them ever since, man. So I shoot with the Canon R5 and
Okay.
two R6s. So we do a little bit of everything and all the assortment of lenses along with lighting on that end.
Awesome. Awesome. And is it just you or do you have a photography team or second
Oh,
shooters?
I have a whole team, man. Somewhat like associated photographers. We have, put it this way, we could probably put together up to 3 or even 4 events in one day. So
Nice.
sending photo and video. Um, and or we can do a really big event of like 5 or 6 people. But yeah, we can handle quite a bit on that end. And then we
Perfect.
also have editors. We also have editors not only for photo, but also for video as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, man. It sounds like you're set up, bro. Who would have thought,
Right.
right?
Yeah, try, man, try. I know that with social media, sometimes it's hard, because I don't talk about a lot of that. It's hard to just put out work on that end, let alone go into detail how every day goes and how we do things and that type of deal, right? A lot of the times I know clientele, they just want to see the pretty photos and some of the video, and it's kind of rough to try to put something together. But yeah, I'm glad I'm sharing that right now.
Awesome, bro. Awesome. What style of photography do you do?
Well, I don't know if I would say I have a style on that end. I love dramatic, right? I'm a
Mhm.
big drama. I love shadows. I love being able to be like dark and moody. That being said, though, I'll be honest. I'm a guy that honestly tells people I love what I do. Give me a camera and a light, and I'll be able to do just about anything that I can, right? So, in my opinion, and I only say that my humble opinion, right? I'm not trying to knock anybody, but I think a good photographer should be able to mimic just about anything, right? In this industry, you see a little bit of like the bright and airy, right? The natural light photographer, like the editor that does the orange and teals type of deal. From my opinion, I can do that, right? I can mimic that. I can do that without an issue. The stuff that I post on social media is going to be more on the dark and moody. But that's why I say I don't know if I have necessarily a style because if you give me a camera, you say, I kind of like that style photo. Can you do it? I'll be like, let's do it. Let's go out there. Let's create. I may need a big light or I may need a small light, or I just may need the sun or some shade on that end. But that's kind of what I like, what I would consider being able to mimic and to a certain degree, maybe do have a little bit of style, but at the end of the day, just give me a camera, man. I'll give you anything you want on that end.
I love that. I love that. Any particular type or niche of photography that you like or that
Well,
you do?
right now, I want to say 85% quinceañeras, man. The
Okay.
quinceañeras call us and we answer. They hire us most of the time. So I'm like, I would say I'm primarily a quinceañera photographer. We do weddings. We do about 10-15% brides a year. I know
Okay.
that with a lot of the colleagues that I have on social media, it's probably the opposite, right? They're more wedding photography just because there's far more weddings happening in a year. Well, that would be an interesting statistic to look at how many quinceañeras versus how many weddings happen in a year. But from our perspective, there's different races having weddings, right?
Right.
All across America versus quinceañeras, it's more Hispanic concentrated. And then if we throw in some of the sweet 16s, then it does open up the pool a little bit more. But girls that are wearing the big poofy dress, the 15, $1,600, 1600 style Victorian, 1700, yeah, that would be the quinceañeras on that end.
Wow, that's incredible, man. That your business is 80% quinceañera. And we've seen it. If y'all have yet to seen his Instagram page, it's at Cumatz Photography. Y'all go
Yeah,
check
check
him
it out,
out.
guys. I mean,
Um,
check out
incredible
what we
work.
have there. Look at there. You'll probably be able to see a little bit of style, but leave suggestions. Send me DMs. What other styles would you like to see on there? I'm
Yeah.
sure we can put it up there as well.
Yeah. And then just going through your website as we were preparing for the episode today. Man, website is incredible. Just from the landing page of the main page, just seeing your work, you're right, man. Your style is very unique, very dark and moody, but it's classy. And you know, what inspires you? Like, you know, obviously when you have a quinceañera, and you try not to be repetitive, because every photo that I saw on your website, and we're gonna talk about the very first photo. And for those that are watching on the YouTube channel, I'm gonna put up a video of his website just so you kind of get an idea of some of the awesome imagery that David does. You did some photos. I don't know if it was a quinceañera, the girl with the yellow dress.
So
Um,
that's something we're starting, right?
okay.
And I'm taking a little bit of different markets that I see out there. So one of the things that I like to do, answering your first question, is, what inspires us to do photo shoots with quinceañeras? It all starts with planning, right? So for me, once we get hired to be the photographer and we set up a date for the pre-shoot, we gotta have a Zoom meeting at least a week to 2 weeks before. And there we got to talk about vision, and not only my vision, but the young lady's vision, right? Because keep in mind, this is her photo shoot, right? She's the one that's going to be in front of the camera. She's the one that's going to have those photos for the rest of her life, right? So most girls are going to look at TikTok, Instagram, social media, Google searches to get some inspiration of what they want to show off, right? So we got to get their inspo, right? At the same time, we also got to get inspo for mom, because this is what true story, what I always tell the clients. I go, look, we got to have daughter's inspiration, and then we got to get your must-have photos to mom, because she may be in the photo, but guess who's financing it, right? It's gonna be you, right? So if you want a specific photo, we got to have that, right? And then I'm gonna come in at the end with, here's what I'm thinking of doing. But we got to have what I call a plan A, plan B, plan C for the day of, right? So I got to have like the must-haves. Let's see what you've seen on Instagram. And from my perspective, I'm a guy that is, I try not to take myself too serious, man. So if they come back with, a photographer's photo that I know or a competitor, I'm like, that's awesome. Like that's the kind of pose you want. Like, let's do it. Just note that it may not be the same because we're not in the same location, but I'm sure we can come up with something unique, right? So once I take that photo that they want, then I start modifying it. Okay, look, we love that bright and airy, but what if we darken it and make it, more dark and moody and more shadows on that end? And if they started off with the dark and moody, then we start opening it up and like, okay, let's go away from the dark and moody and let's do it more bright and airy. So I can give you two sets of different style photos, right? So my goal is that by the end of that photo shoot, you have day photos, natural light, traditional poses, non-traditional poses, artistic stuff, and then the very dramatic with the lighting on that. And that way we can pick and choose from whatever you want. And I'm not married to any of them. We could do whatever you want at that point, right? So that's usually how I go off of when we're doing a shoot and trying to get an inspiration. So I don't do the same cookie cutter, right? Oh, what I did last girl. Okay, we'll just go through the same. Give me pose A, pose B, and pose C, right? Oh, let's mix it up. Let's go B, C, and A, right? We don't want to do that. We want to make sure we do it a little bit different, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to tell the story of who she is, right? What she's about, and maybe try to have that jump out of the photo to be able to show the audience of who's seeing this photo on that end.
Man, you said a lot of key interesting things in your answer there, and I love
Hopefully,
it,
I wasn't
man.
rambling, man.
No, 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 no. You're not rambling, man. I'm just trying to dissect everything that you're telling us. You know what I mean? Because I'm gonna take a little step back from when you started. You know, you mentioned something that is, yes, mom and or parents are financing, right? But it's also the quinceañeras party. So I love how you incorporate of meeting with them, having a creative call or just, a planning call just to understand, okay, what ideas do you want? What inspo do you have? So that way you can plan out the session. And yes, like you said earlier, you are not that photographer. If they bring you an inspo picture, you're not that photographer, but you're not knocking it down, right? You're saying we
Right.
can create something unique more to your style.
Yeah.
And I love that, man, just because you're honest with them.
No, no, for sure. I mean, part of when I say like I'm not that guy, meaning I'm not gonna get upset. I don't have an ego, right? I'm not gonna say,
Right.
oh no, no, I can't recreate that. No, a good photographer should be able to recreate someone else's work. The way I view it is like if we look sports and we think about the football analyst, that guy that's played football for a whole career, take a Tony Romo, right? He retired, but now he's an announcer and he can break down the play as it's happening or before it's happening, right? And a good photographer should be able to look at a photo and break it down and be like, okay, your lighting was here, this is here, or part of that photo that ain't really real. That's a little bit Photoshop, right? A good photographer should be able to start looking at a scene and be able to break it down and can you recreate it, right? And that's part of what I mean. Like, yes, bring me that photo. We're gonna try to recreate it, and then let's make it ours, right? And then to take it a step further, one thing that I have been implementing as of last year is how do we bring personality to this photo, right? And I always say this very carefully to the young ladies and to the moms. I go, once they put that dress on, the crown, they're beautiful. They're princesses, but they're a little generic, right? You look at everybody in their dress and their crown, they're all quinceañeras, but she is more than a quinceañera, right? She's moody, she's happy, she likes sports, she likes, specific hobbies. How do we bring that into a photo? And one of the things that I always say is if we were to show three photos without any captions, see, video is different. Video is easy to do because all you show is 30 seconds right out the bat, you know what they like, right? But if you were to put a photo and you can look at it and be like, oh, she's a quinceañera, but wait, let me look at it again. Oh, she likes to paint because look at that. Look at what she's doing in that photo. Oh,
Mhm.
look, she's a soccer player. Oh, she's a basketball player. Oh, she's actually a photographer too, right? So you see a little bit more of the personality in that. In our, at least my goal for my studio is that you want to show a little bit besides like the pretty dress and the crown, but a little bit of her personality, right? And this is where the yellow dress in my website is kind of evolving now too, because we're offering now sessions where we're actually bringing in dresses with the flowy tail. And I go, you want to do something like this? But I also give them the option of, do you play softball? Like, do you want to put on your full helmet, a bat, put on the little, darken eyes and do something really dramatic? And then, like we already had
Right.
our session with the quinceañera, just to be able to showcase a little bit of more, right? I,
Right.
I'm hoping that most clients can relate and be like, yeah, give me more, right? We want more than just a pretty photo on that end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then do you turn around, once you complete all your sessions and events, do you incorporate IPS in-person sales to your business, or are
I
you working
I
on that?
wish I did, man. I wish I did. I don't because I don't have a space right now that I can call home where it would be a specific meant for IPS. That is actually end of year, maybe next year type of goal where I don't really need a studio. A lot of the times we want a studio where we can do some like studio shoots and stuff like that.
Right.
For me, it's more like, man, give me a space that's like 20 by 20 where I can hang. In that case, that's where I get a little bougie. I can hang my art and
Right.
really put like a big old screen and showcase what kind of films we create and go to town with being creative, right? Part of what I love is as much as I love the drama in the photo, I want to create that drama in real life. So when you come into my space, you'll be able to be like, man, this is in a studio. This is like an art gallery, man. Everything's
Yep.
dark and moody, only that light's lit up. That's my idea, man. Hopefully, if anybody in LA is out here, man, don't take that. Let me
Don't take
have
your
it first.
ideas. Don't take David's ideas. Hey,
Yeah, please
speaking about
don't.
LA, man, and I'm sure there's a ton of photographers out there, right? How is it out there, man? How was the relationships with other photographers? How was the industry out there as a photography as a whole? I mean, what is your perspective on that?
I hate him. No, no, I'm just playing.
Ah,
No, here's a
cut.
good Instagram bait right now. They suck, man. Don't hire them now. No, no. I actually, I'm of the mentality. Here's my mentality, and that'll tell you a little bit also who I am. And I always tell clients too, right? And other photographers, I go, I have this mentality, and it may sound cocky or condescending when I say it right now, but then I'll explain, right? Like in my world, I don't think anybody can compete with me, right?
Right.
Not because I'm like, oh my God, this fool thinks he's up here, mainly because I think that we're all different. we see the world different. My eyesight, the way I see the world, how I grew up, how I learned things is very different from photographer A, photographer C, and photographer D, right? So if the same guys were to shoot that same model, we're all gonna come up with different concepts. So having that in my background, in my mind, tells me that all the guys out of LA, we're just all different. LA is a big market, man.
Yeah.
I mean, tons of Hispanics, and we start looking at LA, man. You got sections of just Mexicans, Central Americans, just Salvadoranians, and you have all that. But guess what? They all have quinceañeras, right? So that means that we're also gonna be able to have enough work for everybody, right? And just like any industry, man, you have guys that charge X and guys that charge Y, and then guys that charge Z, right? So it comes down to the client. And the way I see it is we have a lot of talented photographers. I mean, extremely talented. And what I do is my hat's off to them. If I can ever be of service, let's do it. And if they could help me, hey man, I'm leaning on you on that end. But everybody so far that I've met, I have nothing but good things to say about them. Even the guys that are running to the expos, the guys that are running like somewhat decent studios, right? Like they're doing big amount, big volume, over 100 events a year, and several teams that they send out. Nice people, man. And the guys that are just starting, man, like for me personally, I know when I just started, I always wanted someone to be like, hey man, like do this, like help out, like come with me, I'll help you out. I'm the same way, man. I want to make sure that, in this community, there shouldn't be a reason why you got to be a jerk, right? And be like, nah, nah, I'm not going to show you anything, or
Right.
don't steal my client type of deal, man. The client is going to go with whoever treats them the best, and
Yeah.
or they can get a good deal, right? Let's be honest, we're all consumers at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good information to share, man, because every state, every county, everywhere you look, there's different personalities. And
Yeah.
I love to preach on the show, we're more community than competition, and some people are just different, and that's how they operate. And I can imagine, a location like as big as California, as big as LA in itself,
Yeah.
especially with the Latino community, and I'm sure that's a big impact to your bottom line. So, it's interesting to hear how your perspective is that, there's enough business for everybody,
There
and
it is, man. I mean, if you think about it, I always think about this. I still don't know the answer, right? But I'd love to know what the numbers. We should research it. But on
right.
one Saturday, any given Saturday, think about how many events happen. Forget just the quinceañeras, the weddings, but you have bautizos, you have
Mm-hmm.
graduation parties, retirement parties, bachelorette parties, you have birthdays, you have promotions, you have all sorts of parties. And most people want a photographer there, right? So
Yeah.
in one day, there is probably hundreds, if not thousands, of photographers nationwide. But even in a county like LA, man, that I think we're like 9 or 11 million, something like that in LA County. I mean, that's a lot of people, man. It's a lot
Right.
of events. There's backyard stuff, there's big stuff, there's a lot going on, man.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for you to be too competitive. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? I am competitive. I love what I do. At the end of the day, we are living off of this. So, unless you're directly stealing like money from me, then I probably would get mad at you. But
Right.
other
Of
than that,
course.
hey, listen, if you had a better spiel or you had a better deal for the client, by all means, I'm sure we'll get blessed on the next one. This is
For
the way.
sure, bro. I love that approach, man. Like you said, unless you're just, you're directly messing with my business, then
Yeah, yeah.
fair
But
game, right? Fair play, right? So
yeah, there's plenty for everybody, man. There's plenty for everybody.
awesome, bro. Awesome. Let me ask you this, man. Out in LA County, man. At least, name me one or two different photographers, videographers that inspire you or, inspire your style.
Well, in general, I want to say that I always have this thing that if I follow you on Instagram is because there's something that I like about what you're doing, right? It may not
Hold on,
be
let me
always.
hold on. Let me make sure you're following me on Instagram real quick, bro.
I'll follow you right now, bro.
Oh, snaps, bro. No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
no, I got you, man. I got you. No, it really is like that, right? I can't say per se one or two photographers here. I want to say it's a collection of people And this is why I love social media, because this is a collection of a good way to showcase people's work, and you get to appreciate their hard work. Now, that also becomes a double-edged sword, right?
Hmm.
When you get so used to looking at these awesome work, it can affect you. And then you look at your work, you're like, I don't know about my work, man. I don't think it's that great. I mean, compare it to this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden you can really mess yourself up that way. And or the perspective that, you know, only us know how hard it is to get this like awesome shot, like that banger shot,
Yeah.
edit, you post it, and it may not get the great reviews, but you put it right. And then the expectation is, where's the next one, right? Not knowing that how long that took you, right?
Right.
And that unfortunately can be a perspective of like, yeah, that was an awesome shot. That was an awesome video shot. Where's the next one, right? And sometimes it's not that easy to come by, man. And like I said, that's a double-edged sword. Like being able to use the social media to look at what the competitor or what the other photographer that inspires you does, and at the same time kind of get you thinking like, where like, man, I did this, but that was last week, man. That was yesterday. Who
Yeah.
do I have for today, right? I mean, tell me if that's not a real thing that sometimes we have to just turn off social media and kind of regroup and be like, nah, I gotta relax and not worry about what everyone else is doing on that end. I don't know if that sometimes happens to you, or am I the only one here?
No, I mean, I think that's in general. You always want
Yeah,
to try to be creative. You want to always be on top of your game. And sometimes when you're just like scrolling away and just looking at other photographers' work, you get inspired, but then again, you're like, "No, I'm not trying to copy that. At least that's me. I'm not trying to copy that
yeah,
style." And you just try to, like you said, you got to kind of disconnect from time to time and then
sure.
figure out what you want to do, what lights that fire under your, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Brent. I 100% agree with what you're saying right there.
All right. Give me a second, man. This is where everybody gets mad at Canon, and apparently, I
Your
know it's
battery's about to die again.
no, man, it's overheating over here. I
Oh
got it
my
on 4K
goodness.
apparently, bro. Here, let me take it out of 4K and put it on regular 1080 because
All right.
I mean, we can let that out so Canon
Yeah,
won't get
for sure.
upset.
You still look the same, homie.
I still look the same, right? I don't think it changes, right? Other than I was in 4K 24, and apparently this thing still gets hot like that. I'm not
Yeah.
even recording, I'm just using the sensor, I guess. But
Yeah, the sensor is just, yeah. So
damn,
it's
man,
it's
come on, Canon. Don't make me switch to Sony now.
oh man. Is it
No,
is it
no,
was
no.
it is it blinking at you saying, hey, overheating or what?
It was blinking and telling me overheating, but now that I'm in 1080, it went away. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure why I was in 4K to begin with. I mean, it's not like we're really recording, and I don't think it makes a difference. I don't know unless you see my wrinkles now
I
or
would
not.
I would bring it one f stop down just to kind of
Oh, too bright?
a little bright, at least on my andale. There we go.
Ah, all right. I
Uh-huh.
just lower a
What
little bit of the
one
lighting. I figure I constant. All right,
yeah.
perfect.
There you go. There you go. Now
All
you don't
right,
look
all
like a
right.
ghost. No, just kidding. You didn't look like a
Oh shoot, I
ghost.
was looking white then.
Yeah, you're not Guatemalan anymore.
Yeah, right.
Hey, brother. So yeah, I love the conversation, man, and for sure, it's been a pleasure. So again, thank you for talking with me. Let me ask you this, bro. Um, what does your booking process look like? So let's just say you get an inquiry. What is kind of walk us through that workflow of
So
yours from booking to contract to executing and all that good stuff.
so one of the things for me is because of not having that home. I do have an office. Obviously, you see me in an office right now, but I don't have a place where I can really showcase some of the work. I've actually kind of adapted with this new social media landscape, right? Where everything's online, right? It's not like when I grew up, you wanted to see something, you had to go somewhere, right? Now we're in the Amazon, Netflix type of world, right? I mean, I'm old enough to go to Hollywood, Rentos, and Blockbuster, man. Those are two brands that people are like that are younger than 20 are gonna be like, what? So
What's a
that,
blockbuster?
yeah, what's a Blockbuster, right? What's a Hollywood, or what's a Radio Shack, right? Or Circus City, right?
Circuit City. There you go.
Yeah, all the brands that obviously don't exist anymore, and they've gone to Amazon, right? And Amazon is from the comfort of your home, from your phone, from a mobile tablet or a laptop, right? So I've tried to adapt myself in that sense, knowing that I do have clients sometimes out of out of out of LA, right? They're not here, and if they were to come and visit me, they're gonna drive 2, 3, and sometimes they're doing San Francisco stuff. They're not gonna drive out here just to see my pretty photos, only for them to realize I'm not the guy, right? Obviously, they can book more sessions with other people and see what they have. So I've gone from being online presence, right? So if you look at my website, I try to do a good job so they can see and showcase what we do, right? We do quinceañeras, and this is the style. So once I get an inquiry, I usually reply back by email or a text, or depending if the inquiry originated from Instagram, we'll reply back and we'll say, hey, would love to send you pricing. But before we do that, we got to talk to you, right? We got to be able to explain to you what we do and how we do it, right? And so what we do is we set up a phone call, and then in that phone call, I already have links, right? And a lot of us use these tools to deliver galleries to clients. So what I do is I have specific links already ready to go. So when I'm talking to the client, I send them a link, they click on it. Most of the customers are able to put photos right on their phone as they're talking to me. And I'm explaining to them, what the difference is of the pre-session, the day of, how it looks straight out of camera, how it looks edited,
Right.
how the day of is going, right? And as I'm showing them those photos, I'm also explaining to them the day of, how that's very different from the pre-shoot, and how a pre-shoot is really important because we don't have to worry about gas, food, and the venue, right? We got to worry about, we got to worry about being creative and doing something that's going to be different, because the day of is going to have its own scenarios, right?
Hmm.
We can sit down and plan things and be like, oh, I'm gonna have 2 hours for this, 2 hours for that. And on the day of, we're like, hey, man, you got 45 minutes because, so and so took a little longer in the chair, or all of a sudden the limo driver got lost, and not to throw the limo drivers under the bus, but scenarios that have happened to us, right? We've had scenarios where the priest took longer than usual, right? And those things can be altered the timeline, right? So I explain all that as I'm talking to them over the phone. We send them samples of what a guest book looks like, what a big photo looks like. I send them samples of our video, because video to me is really important. If we're offering photo and video, I want them to look at the quality of video, because the last thing I want is for them to look at our photos and be like, man, you have some really good photos, but boy, does your video suck, man. We
Wow.
don't want that. We want them to be like, man, it complements each other, and it does a good job. So pretty much it's all done on the over the phone. And I want
Okay.
to say about 80% of the clients, I won't say 80 to 90% of the clients love it. And then they, after a brief conversation with their, spouses or whoever it is that also doing the decision, they come back and go, man, just send me a contract and let's ready to roll, man. And essentially that's the whole handle of that. And it's mainly adapting to the new world, right? Which is
Hmm.
all social media, all online. It'd be nice to, yeah, I mean, there's nothing like seeing a photo on a computer screen versus actually seeing it on a book and a big photo. Some of this artwork out here, it looks stunning, right? Once you look at big photo, it looks stunning. But your goal is to try to be able to show it off online and be able to know that once, if they love it online, they're gonna be hella impressed when they see
Yeah.
that in print, and they're gonna be like, man, that's even better on that. And so that's kind of the booking process that I have. I think it's a little unique in my perspective, only because I've learned to adapt with what I have, right? You got to use the tools that you have and make something out of nothing, right?
I agree. I agree because sometimes you got to build up to that, right? All
Sure.
the other, photographers, vendors that you may see at, either at bridal expos, quinceañera expos, or even open houses, man. I'll tell you this story real quick, not to, divert from the conversation,
No, no, go
but
for it.
I went to the Dallas bridal show this past weekend with a photographer buddy of mine who invited me. I've never done any expos or any, bridal shows, so I wanted to kind of go get a feel for it, because I am interested in possibly doing something in the near future, right? But I kind of want to go gauge the situation and kind of see how others are doing it just to kind of get inspired, not to copy, right? Um, and it is very unique to see, one vendor's booth compared to the other vendor's booth.
Yeah, yeah,
You'll see some people that have like a wall, like a 10, 12-foot wall, and it's just covered in like 30 by 20s. And then you may have another one that may just be limited, right? with, a couple, 30 by 20s, but it's very unique to see different photographers how they do it. And like you said earlier, you gotta work with what you got. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
as you grow, you keep adding more to your arsenal or to your equipment, gear,
for sure.
marketing, right? So
Yeah.
I completely agree with you with that
No,
statement,
no,
man.
the expos is a beautiful place to go. I mean, I do about two expos a year.
Which ones
Set
are
to,
those?
there's one in Pomona, it's a Quinceañera magazine LA. There's in Pomona. I like the
Hmm.
Pomona one over different parts of the city. And then I try to do a bridal one. I didn't do it last year, but I'm probably going to do it this year. And that one's in downtown LA in the convention center. But I got to tell you, man, the Quinceañera ones, they are you get all sorts of styles and quality, right?
Okay.
You have a few studios in town, go all out, man. They do big screens, they do lighting, they go all out, man. They
Yeah.
do a beautiful presentation, right? And you got to spend a lot of money to do all that, right?
How much is how much and what size?
Well, I want to say, a 10 by 10 can run you about $700, right?
Okay.
Just a space, right? But like if you start doing screens, and obviously I personally don't own screens, but if you got to rent that, do trust, and now you got to get people to come in and help you out, easily a few $1,000s, right? Like
Oh
I
yeah.
calculated last time, if I want to do it the way I want, easily can go between 7 and 10 grand for just 5 hours, right? Just 5 hours that we're gonna do the show. So those are things to weigh, right? Like, does it make sense? Does it not? I've kind of gone to the approach right now. I just kind of do a tabletop, man. I just take a few some of the best work that I think is the best work and just sit it there in a few books. And then, you got to have presence with your personality, man. That's the one thing. If you're going to be doing sales, you cannot be that shy person, man. And especially if this is your business, man, you got to be hungry, man. You got to have personality. You got to be able to showcase and you got to be able to multitask because I don't know how your experience was for this expo, but from my experience, there's a crowd that's generally interested, and there's another crowd that just wants to go there and um how much, right? You're like, well,
Yeah, they're,
it's a
they're
little
just
bit
window
then.
shopping.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little bit than just how much, right? Like, or like that guy over there is doing it for X amount, and that person is doing this, and I'm like, yeah, let's sit down and talk about it, right? It's
Right.
hard to talk, and then with these trade shows, man, my only knock, and I love the trade shows in general, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, but it's hard to sell on the floor. You got like a fashion runway type, so they have music, they have loudspeakers, everybody else around you is loud and you're over here trying to have a conversation, that ain't gonna happen, man. It feels like you're yelling at that person. And then
Yeah.
also, I'm like, man, did it sound like I was yelling at them? So
That was
you gotta be a little careful on that. So I'm like, I love trade shows. That's why I only do two a year, right? I love
yeah.
them enough that we need to get our name out there, but not enough that I just want to do trade shows because I also have this perspective that $600 that you pay for 5 hours, those $600, if you put it towards ads on Instagram, Facebook, Google, or any of those
Right.
things are working throughout the night, right? Even when you're sleeping, there's gonna be some mom that couldn't sleep or her shift ends at 9 and she's probably scrolling and looks at your ad and your competitors ain't there, man. She's just looking at your work and I love it because when they look and look more, that's when they fall in love with your stuff and they go, oh man, I love them. Let's reach out to them. So
Yeah.
I have that perspective that expos are good, but also diverting that money for some ads, it can go a long way as well, right?
Right. So it's definitely, yeah. So it's just knowing how to run your business and how you want
For
to
sure.
spend your marketing money, right? Because as photographers, you got to set aside budgeting for marketing. You got to set aside money for gear and all those things. It's expenses that you have to do, but the ROI, with the
Can be
bookings, man,
can
it
be
could
awesome.
be it could be
Yeah.
incredible. That's
So
that's awesome, bro.
how's your experience? Really quickly asking
No,
on
yeah, yeah. No, man. It was good, bro. Like I said, man, I went with another photographer friend. So he signed me up as an employee and as one of his employees so I can help him out. And I went out and helped out with some behind the scenes stuff
oh,
for
okay.
them, you know what I mean? Just because they're always busy.
Yeah.
But I walked the floor. I talk to different vendors, different photographers, different venues, and it was good. Of course, I wanted to respect their time. Like if a potential client walked up, I'm not gonna take up their time, and
Right.
that's what I noticed sometimes that other vendors would come up to another vendor booth and just chit chat, chit chat, chit chat. You know what I mean? And not respect that they have potential clients.
Yeah,
You
right,
know what I
right. I
mean? And
mean, it makes sense if there's nobody there, there's a fashion show, everybody's averted. That makes sense, right? But
yeah,
if you see clients there or potential clients and they're over here trying to talk to you about, how the game's gonna go,
yeah. Yeah,
that
like
ain't
just
gonna
just
work, man.
talking something that's not related. And if you're out there and if you're one of those vendors, just be courteous. You know what I mean? Because these,
Take,
people
take
pay
their
for their
hand.
booths. They go to talk to potential clients and not
Yeah,
just, obviously have a conversation with different, network as well, but there's a time and place for all that, right?
sure,
But
for sure.
overall my experience was good, man. I think I came back home motivated, excited to go
Right.
and do a couple booths, but I'm also a fan of those ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads.
Yeah.
I'm learning a little bit more about Google ads and its analytics. So I'm excited to try that here. And just kind of do slow drip campaigns to make sure, my reach is getting to the right client, right? Just I don't want to be, getting to the wrong, a 65-year-old man that, trying to sell a quinceañera package, he ain't gonna
Or
give a
another
crap.
photographer, right?
Or another photographer, right?
Or
So
just
that's
photographer.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's one of the things that I'm doing. I'm studying and learning how all that works to kind of make sure
That's
I'm getting the best bang for my buck.
Dude, that's a whole different approach. So I took a workshop last year that was the main part. Like one day was dedicated to that business side of email campaigns, the drips, and the way this guy had it set up was very interesting because he did a lot of behind the scenes where if he does a landing page for a campaign, you reply to it, it goes to another part of the software. That software replies back as a personalized email or a text message.
Yeah,
Then once they get him engaging, then he steps in and does all that. And that kind of saves a lot of work, especially if you're a big studio where you got X amount of clients and you got days where clients come in. It's hard to manage all that. And I can see how a big time studio can spend all day long just answering emails and doing a lot of
right.
admin work. But yeah, the way he set it up and being able to have your right target audience, man, that's a whole different thing. And when I got that, my head was spinning, and I'm like, I think I'm a little bit behind the curve on that
I,
one.
I got some catching up to do.
Yeah, man, because I'm very like, again, those 15 years of sales that I did it really old school where I was on the phone, it was face-to-face presentation. And let's be honest, a lot of the new generation, especially for the wedding side, they don't want to call, they don't want you to call them, man. They want to do all through text message or email. And see, I'm very different, man. I want to hear your voice. I want to see your facial expression. Because that's how, in my opinion, is my street smart. That's how I can
Right.
tell how the conversation is going, right? I can pick up on cues that unfortunately a lot of people nowadays are kind of missing out on being just on social media, right? So there's a big struggle for me, man, trying to go into that side versus me being stubborn, be like, nah, man, I want to hear what they say. I want to know if they're interested or not, right? So hence why I like phone calls over in person at the time because I don't have the place on that end. But I don't know, what's your feel on that?
Oh man, yeah, no, I definitely, want to learn more about that, the back end side. But I think what you said earlier, I mean, that's what I like about you and your personality, man. You're very outgoing, you like to talk to people and build a relationship with somebody, whether it's a new person or a fellow photographer. And I think that's what makes you unique compared to other photographers in the
Right.
industry. And I know quite a few of them, right? And I know some that are very introverted, that are just very shy. And I mean, their work is amazing. And kudos to them because they're doing something different, whether it's
Right.
just their work or just, maybe they loosen up and with you, it's just right out of the gate, like, hey, what's up? What's your name? How you doing? Where you from?
Well, and that's one of the things that I tell the families when we do the Zoom. I go, I gotta break the ice with the young lady. I go because right off the bat, I know she's not a professional model, so they may be outgoing among themselves and may take the 1,000 selfies in the privacy of their own room. But getting public and all that, that can be nerve-wracking. Big
For
old,
sure.
I'm looking at this camera right now. I'm like, it's rare that I'm in front of this thing, right? I'm always behind it. So, being able to help that person feel at ease is very important. Now, you brought up something that I heard last time, and I don't know how true this is, but they said that majority of photographers are introverts, right? That's part of the reason why they're behind the camera, right? And that could be very true. You are right. There's some introvert photographers that do amazing work, but that's where something that I picked up last year, where I'm starting to think that way. And you may disagree. Some of our viewers may be like, nah, nah, you got to be a photographer first. I don't really see myself a photographer first anymore. The reason being is I see myself more like a businessman, because when you see yourself as running a business than a photographer, you kind of separate your feelings from your work, right? Don't get me wrong, I love what I do, uh, but I'm looking at it from a perspective of a business where, man, I got to pay the rent, I got to feed the kids, I got
Right.
diapers, milk to buy, right?
Right. Because this is
So
your full time, right?
this is my full time, right? So for me, is I gotta be part of that sales, right? And in the beginning, when I started, I didn't want to be the brand name, right? I didn't want my face out there. I'm like, I don't want to be, I don't want people to think I'm so self-absorbed. I need to have a
Hmm.
camera in front of me and look at what I'm doing, look how much fun I'm having. But in reality, you kind of have to be able to sell your brand, right? Like,
Right.
you got to step out of your comfort zone, right? And part of that, now that I see it as a businessman, is that I kind of separate myself a little bit from my work, where how am I going to be successful, right? And here's where certain people would say that are photographers first, businessmen second, is, oh, we can't do that because the artwork or the way I create the art, or I'm an artist, right? And again, there's no knock on that. If that's how you view yourself, by all means, right? For me, I view myself as somebody that has a business and it happens to be photography, and we're obviously going to do an awesome job. But part of being a business person is, how can we get more clients? How can every year we stay consistent with X amount of clients represents happy life, right?
Right.
This this amount of clients means this is sad David, right? So we want to keep happy David, happy family, consistent work, right? Not thinking about, man, I think I'm gonna have to go get a part-time delivery Uber, and again, nothing
Right.
wrong with that, but like, bro, I gotta work. I can't do that because I gotta go do a part-time whatever, because photography ain't paying off, right? And I honestly see it as like the difference between acting, music, and photography, right? How many pure musicians, pure actors, unfortunately don't make it, right? There's
Right.
quite a few. I mean, I live in a market where most waiters and coffee shop people are struggling actors or musicians, right? Waiting
Right.
for the next big gig to happen, and then they'll make it big. And then from my perspective, I'm like, nah, man, I gotta be out there. We gotta look at it from a different perspective, because again, I want this year to be happy day, right? And not thinking, man, I'm gonna have to start selling lighting again, man. I go back to where I used to be, right? But that's how I see it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I think I definitely see it in a way where it is that you have to work twice as hard to get where you want to be, right? Us, photographers, videographers, anybody that's in the either quinceañera space or wedding space, whether it's catering, well, not too much catering because they can get work outside, but let's just say,
Right,
wedding photographers, quinceañera photographers, right? We solely depend on that to come in. And if business slow, then that means there's nothing else that's coming in. And we have to figure out other ways, right? We start
right,
doing
right, right,
headshots, we start doing, different types of photography just to kind of
right.
supplement that as we're building and booking, as our bookings are coming in. And I feel you, bro. There's been times where you just kind of worry, but and I think right now with the economy the way it is, definitely, it's hard. Some could be struggling, but one thing that I don't do is I don't devalue myself or my brand, right? Because
Good.
once you start
Yeah.
devaluing and what I mean devaluing is like offering that $1,500 off, and I'm gonna give you 10 albums and 4 photo sessions, and you know what I mean, like
Uh,
really kind of
No,
digging into your, your
your
take
margin, man.
home, you know
Yeah,
what I mean, your money, then I rather figure out something else, right?
for
So yeah,
sure.
I agree with you, bro. Just we got to keep hustling. You got to be happy,
Yeah.
happy David or sad David.
Happy-
Yeah,
That's a good one, right? Happy David for the year, or sad David or worry David, right?
right.
Because honestly, we're human, we have emotions, and whether we want to take work home or not, our spouses, our family sense when there's something not happening, right? Right. Like when this month's a little tight, they can sense it, right? So we,
Yeah,
we gotta do our due diligence in putting ourselves out there, creating the work. And at the end of the day, man, the way I see it is you just gotta be hungry, man.
yeah,
um it doesn't matter what you do, right? It doesn't matter if you're in construction, if you sell life insurance, if you're an actor, a musician, man, you gotta be hungry and willing to put in the work. So this is where I would say I'm very, very old school, man. I'm one of those where you can look at my social media. I used to hate social media. In my personal life, you ain't never gonna see something personal put on social media, right? So when I started, I'm like, I'm not doing Instagram, I'm not doing Facebook, I'm not doing any of that. And then I realized the power of social media, and I'm like, I got to do it, right? So I started, a few years back. I started growing it, man. And I'm barely at 2,000 followers on Instagram. And I go and you look these top photographers, they go, man, 100,000, man, 200,000, like damn. And then I go, you know what? Hard work is gonna pay off, man. I'm at
hmm
2K right now, and it's all right, right?
yeah.
And like and it's funny because they all those spam ads, they really go after me. Like, you want to buy followers, you want to buy likes, and
Man,
I'm
I
like,
hate
damn,
those.
is it that
I
bad?
hate those bots, man.
Is it that bad that you're looking at me? But from my perspective, I'm like, work, hard work pays off. Right now, I may be here, but if I stay hungry, if I stay consistent,
Yep.
if I innovate, it's gonna pay off,
Yep.
man. And
And it and
it's the same way with anything you do in life, right?
yeah. And I'll tell you this, bro. Like I mentioned earlier, man, it's your work is paying off. You may not see it by the followers, you may not
Right.
see that growing, but at the end of the day, yes, we love the social media attention, but it's not about that. It's about, like you
Oh,
say, going out there, getting it, getting your bookings, and completing that task.
yeah.
And what I told you earlier, man, from when I met you to now, bro, is you're a whole different photographer, a whole different businessman. That's what it is,
Growing, man, growing,
and then
growing.
and then that's those are facts. So
Yeah.
let me, before we continue, bro,
Yeah, go for it.
I put a social media poll out there, and there's about two or three different questions that different people have, right? So let's
Okay.
try to make these as quick, short, and easy, so that way we,
Sure.
I want to make sure I answer the people. I'm just gonna name them by their first name. And here, Amy on Instagram is asking, in LA, what is one of your favorite places to photograph?
The favorite place would be the beach, man. And I got to throw a little shade for the rest of the country because we have a beach, man. Like, we got
Right.
a bunch of them too in Southern California. Like, we have a lot, right? And growing up here, you don't realize how beautiful, and you can take it for granted, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't until I had a photographer buddy that came out of your area, came to San Diego, and he was like, dude, we don't have beaches. Like, we don't have these rocks with the sunset flowing down. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, man. I'm so
Yeah.
used to having it. I'm like, this is for granted. But LA, quickly saying LA, man, we have desert. We can go to
Yeah.
Palm Springs. We can go Big Bear, only an hour and a half. We can go to the beach within 20 minutes, hour and 20 if you want to go some of the nicer ones.
Yeah.
We go to gardens, and we have some iconic places, man. But the beach, only because the sunset at the beach, they can be absolutely stunning.
Awesome. That's yeah, I'm definitely jealous of that, man. We
Yeah, no,
got
no
dry
shade, man. No shade on that.
we got nothing but flatlands, heat, and a little bit of sand here from the lakes that are drying up.
It's all right. It's all right. You got beautiful heat though.
Yeah. Too much heat. Too much,
Yeah,
bro.
right.
All right. So we got Carlos on Instagram who is asking this is a funny one.
All right.
What's your favorite taco meat?
Lengua.
Tacos de lengua?
Taco de lengua. But they don't serve it just anywhere. Some of the like the restaurant ones sometimes don't have it. Most street vendors they have lengua cabeza, even places that the cow I didn't even know you can eat. I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm good with lengua. But lengua is the one that I really truly love.
And let me follow up with that, man. Out in LA, what is one of the best taco joints out there, man? Because I'm a sucker for tacos, bro.
You know,
So
there's one. I'll give shout out to a actual, a taco stand, like a little actual place. They're off of in the heart of Pacoima, man. So if you know anything about LA and the LA in the Valley,
yeah,
Pacoima is the heart, man. And I know in the past it's been known for gangsters and all the bad stuff that happens, in the Valley. But
right.
Pacoima has this beautiful stand where they give you handmade tortillas with cuerito del puerco, well done with the nice sauce, man. I mean, you're making me hungry, bro. Making me hungry.
I know. I think
That's
that
the
we're
place
gonna
to
cut
do.
the podcast a little short today, man. We're gonna go get some street tacos real quick, and we'll continue later. All right, last question from Jose. Hold on, where did it go? Okay, so Jose is asking, who right now and who right now is your favorite photographer that inspires you?
Right now, that's a good one, man. Because like almost every day, every time I open social media, I'm like, damn, that guy is really good. I like him now. Honestly, top of my head, there's quite a few, man. And you know what's interesting? It's the guys that are not socially known on social media, man.
Okay.
I gotta give out a shout out to like the old school guys, like a Jerry Guillonis type of the guy, man. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't really care about social media, but boy, does that dude put out some good work from when he used to do the wedding stuff, right?
He's a good marketer, I'll tell you that. Man, I
Oh
see
yeah.
all his ads every single
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And but honestly, there's quite a few, man. I mean, I hate to name one because some of them I do know personally too. I don't want to be like, damn, this dude's like this guy don't like me no more or anything like that. I want to say there's quite a few, man, and I'm not trying to like run away from the question or anything like that. I just there's far too many that if I start naming names, man, they're gonna be like, man, what's up with me? You don't show me love anymore or anything like that. But yeah, no, I do. I want to say the hardest working ones, the ones that don't cut the corners, and those are the ones that honestly I do follow. And you can constantly, from their perspective, I'm constantly liking, giving comments and stuff like, man, I love your work, I love the hustle,
yeah,
because it all comes together, right? Like you can't not hustle and still have good work, right? Like you gotta
right.
have both to in order to come up with something good. Yeah. So we'll
For
leave it
sure.
at that, man. I know it's unconclusive.
We'll leave it at that. We don't
I
want to
sound
hurt
like a
nobody's
politician, man. It's a yes and no answer, and I'm over
yeah,
here giving
we
out
don't
all
want to
the
hurt
information.
nobody's feelings and get you people that, start unfollowing you just because you didn't name drop. So,
Yeah.
wise choice there, my friend. Wise choice. All right, let's continue, brother. So I got another question for you, my man.
Yeah.
I met you at a workshop and I've seen your stories. You're a fan of workshops. Why do you like workshops, and why would you recommend it to a photographer that is just starting, getting into the quinceañera space?
So in reality, man, I'm a hands-on guy, right?
Hmm.
I like YouTube. There's nothing wrong with YouTube. There's nothing wrong with buying tutorials. I have a bunch of tutorials from different people, man.
Right.
If I could give a shout out to a company that does beautiful tutorials, SLR Lounge, man. Pi Jerza out of Orange County. That guy has a collection of tutorials, and I've learned a lot through some of that. But the reason I love workshops is because it's hands on, right?
Hmm.
If you ever look at a YouTube video and you go, man, that's amazing how he did it. Let me go duplicate it. You may have some questions. Yeah, you can, leave them a comment, send them a message. They may or may not get back to you. They're busy people too. But when you go to a workshop, man, it's hands on, right? Not only that, you have that one on one with the teacher. At some point, you're gonna be able to ask them, hey, man, what about this? What about that? Aside from that, it's also the networking aspect, right? Like the whole reason we're having this podcast is because you and I met at a workshop, right? And
Right.
There's a
That's
little bit
true.
of camaraderie, right? Like I'm out of LA, you're out of Texas. I met another dude out of Northern Cal, and I've done other workshops where I met guys out of Washington, and we still actually keep in touch, and sometimes we motivate each other. And that's something that a tutorial isn't going to give you, right? Be able to network and be able to find people that, although the instructor did a good job, but now you start realizing like, wait, why was that guy at the workshop? His work is amazing, man. Like, let me ask him how he did certain things or what he's facing, right? And again, that's something that tutorials, YouTube isn't gonna be able to give you, right? Like an actual hands-on is a little bit different. The other thing is like you're spending money, time. In some cases, you're flying out there, you gotta make this work, right? You gotta
Right.
make sure you put 100% of your time to make this work versus home. Sometimes, I have kids, I can start a workshop and all of a sudden my kids come in or my wife comes in or a client calls and I get distracted. I gotta move on and do something else. I don't finish the tutorial. So I'm a big fan of hands-on workshop because there's a lot that I unpack. So
Right.
you can, kind of digest it on that. I know I went over a lot, but yeah,
No, no,
I'm
you're good.
big hands-on
I
type of
and I love the extra explanation because there's a lot of people that may be afraid of doing workshops
mm,
or maybe are thinking about doing a workshop, and this is the reason why I wanted to ask that question, just to kind of help motivate other people that
yeah,
you
for
know
sure.
it's a hands-on training. You go and network, and I think you said the best words, man. You're paying for it, so you gotta get the best out of it, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
apply it to your business so that way you can elevate your game.
for sure. Yeah.
What up workshops you got coming up,
So I
or are
got
you
one
going to?
I'm going one in Texas next
Okay.
month.
Next
So
month.
yeah, the next month I believe is at the end of the month.
What part
Uh,
of Texas?
Dallas, man. Dallas.
Uh,
I'm
uh,
being in your backyard, man.
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Who's
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Who's you going to?
I'm going to we're good, say
Yeah, why
Yeah,
not?
all right, cool, cool. So I'm doing the Rick's workshop, man. I want to go out there and actually do a formal one because last time that I was out there, it was a different photographer. So I really want to see his stuff and what he has to say one on one with the whole group, more intimate. And it's exciting, man. But I'm also in town to do, network with other areas, man. Some of your colleagues, some of the, hair and makeup and whatever, whoever else we can make
Yeah,
friends with, man. So. I love it. I'm a big fan of going to different towns or cities and creating what you do back at home. I have
yeah,
this saying now is like, give me a camera and some lights, we'll create something. And that really is truly what I'm trying to do. Go to Dallas and do that. Maybe next time is Miami or maybe in Mexico or sometime in Europe. I don't know, man, but we could put together a expedition of like 4 or 5 photographers. We could take over Europe, man, and do
right.
something out there, right? So the goal is to be able to create something that is way outside your comfort zone, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to the LA geographic or places where I've gone, right? Like we all have that one place where we could probably shoot it with our eyes closed because we already know how it is and what time of day and all that. But the real challenge is going somewhere you're not aware of, how the lighting's gonna react, what kind of photo you're gonna come back with. So that's the goal, man. Trying to create something in a different landscape and see what I can come up with.
For sure, bro. That's interesting. And yeah, no, best of luck to you. And I know of Rick's boot camp or you know, training session, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, for sure. Once you're here, man, maybe we could do an in-person podcast and we could talk
For
about how that
sure.
experience was and
Yeah.
kick back. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, yeah. We'll set that up. Sounds good.
Perfect, perfect. Hey, we're getting ready to ask one more fan question here.
Yeah.
All right. Says since you shoot Canon. Oh, I'm sorry. This is from Jaime. I apologize.
All
Since
right.
you shoot Canon, what is your go-to lens?
2870 for day of event.
Okay.
870 for day of event. Uh port the pre-session 85 millimeter 1.2, man. That lens, those two lens on the day of 85 on one, 2870 on the other. God help my back, man, but that's all I need, man. Yeah,
Man,
those
that 20.
centers are huge and bulky and expensive. Good grief if you break one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are it, man. I have two. one for day of and one for the pre-shoot.
So I own the 28 to 70, and I was curious because that lens itself is heavy.
Oh,
I
now
weighed
try
it
using the
out.
85 on the other end.
Yeah. I weighed just the lens on the little scale, man. That thing is 7.5 pounds. Now, 7.5 pounds may not be a lot, but you're carrying that with another camera and you're walking around all day. It gets heavy after a while, you know.
So my respects to pregnant women, because this is
Shout
a
out
lens
to all the
that
pregnant
almost
women out
weighs.
there.
Well, this is a lens that weighs like a little baby. You have one on one side, one on another. But when I get tired, I take it off. You girls, ladies, you gotta wait the 9 months, man.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, am I wrong? Like,
Oh,
damn.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out
Who,
to all
who
the
knew pregnant women were gonna come into this podcast?
right, right now for sure. Give them some props, man. Hey, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, bro?
Oof, that's a heavy question, man. I have a lot of visions. I have right now about two or three. You know how I feel right now? I feel like that college student that has no idea what he's gonna major, and he's probably changing his major one or two times a month, right?
Right.
I feel that way, and it's a good feeling to have because the opportunities are there and you can go one way or another. The reason I'm saying that is because yes, I'm a quinceañera photographer. So far we've been able to develop having more than one team go out there, and we can actually develop a big time studio if we wanted to. That's one of the visions, being able to create something that no one has seen, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong, there's a lot of awesome studios here in LA, but imagine having a studio that even in Dallas, they go, hey, have you heard of Kumat? Oh, yeah, that's that one crew out in LA that they're taking over all the quinceañeras or the weddings, right? Like that level of like heavyweight. That would be a vision. The other vision is commercial production work, man. I love the film side. I tell my wife and the kids, I go, the only thing if I had to do it differently would be I would have gone to film school. I really love cinema and I really would love to do movies like straight out Hollywood, work for a Netflix or Apple TV and really do that whole cinema side because I really love the storytelling, the lighting, the camera, the gear. We have this show out here in LA called Cinegear.
Mm-hmm.
They do it at the Paramount Backlot Studios,
Yeah.
and it's free. You go in and you see the industry professionals, and we're talking about like the professionals that have the $50,000 just suit to carry to rig a camera. That you're rigging at least over 100,000 just in camera gear or just one lens alone, right? You have the boom lifts, you have the cars that do the chases, you have everything that a professional studio does to create a movie is shown that day. And I love going to that show because it plays with that. I could have been the next Spielberg type in my mind, right? I don't
Right.
know if I would
For
have gone
sure.
to school, right? But no, I really love that. So I also see that other side of if I don't do that big studio that I think about, I could do, production work. Who knows? I
Right.
may be doing commercials. Who knows? Maybe next 5 and 10 years, you'll be giving my Oscar interview of the movie that I produced, right?
There you go. Nice.
Who knows, right?
Right.
For me, sky's the limit, right? I know you may
Sure.
joke and we may joke and be like, this movie's aiming high. But the question is like, why not, right? If you don't aim high, how do you know you can't get there, right?
Right.
So for me, I love that side, right? And that's part of what I'm starting to maybe implement for the next years coming in, where I might start buying some of that cinema stuff, man. I mean, talk about expensive gear. Think about buying a $30,000 camera, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
putting in, 20, $30,000 lenses and creating. Obviously, we're not going to be doing quinceañeras with the $60,000 rig, but
Why
we're gonna
not?
be doing something. Well, why not, right? But yeah, price is gonna be
Now,
at 15,000 now.
now you go into the higher end market, you know?
Yeah, higher end on that end, man. But um, that's a little bit of the future, man. It's a little bit uncertain, and I feel like that dreamer right now, where sky's the limit. I can go here, or I can go there, or I can go there. As long as you go forward, man, you can't go back. That's all. That's my mantra, man. Go forward. You may have setbacks, but just keep going forward. That's all.
There you go. Look at David turning into a motivational
Should have
speaker today
speaker, right?
on the podcast, y'all.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah. Maybe a motivational speaker instead, right?
there you go. You could be the next
Yeah,
David Goggins, pero not David
yeah.
Goggins, is David Kumatz.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna write my book next time, The 10 Steps to Success
Hey,
and
there
why
you
you should
go.
never look back.
Yeah, there you go. With your picture just kind of like pointing
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
hey. Hey,
right?
bro, man, I love the conversation, man. You're a good conversation. You hold a good, your spirit is good, and you give positive vibes. And I don't see why, clients in your area would not want to book with you. And I see
Oh,
why the ones they have booked with you, you give out this radiant vibe that they feel comfortable with you, that it resonates with them when you're taking their photos. You know what I mean?
for sure,
and
man, for
and it
sure.
looks, and just by looking at some of the photos and your background, man, you have incredible work. So keep up the good work, homie.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, having me out here, man, ranting and talking about the stuff that I like, which is photography. Honestly, man, I could do 3, 4 hours, just chatting about gear and different things that we seen, in our industry, man. And that's not even talking about the stuff that we go through, right? As people, right? I mean, I have a whole lot of stuff that I'm like, man, that's stuff that people don't see and hear of the stuff that we have to go through as the photographer, man. Forget about the low bookings sometimes on the day of and personal family emergencies, and you're like, what do I do? Well, I gotta shoot that because this isn't regular work, right? Oh, I gotta call in sick, man. I'll send you my other guy, right? It's
Right.
one of those, it is what it is, and we gotta just keep it up, man. We gotta keep it going. Um, be able to showcase that this industry doesn't have to be, boring and full of, people with egos, because unfortunately sometimes it can be known as that and overcharging and then change the mentality of the client to that thinks, man, all you're doing is just clicking the camera, man. Like, why are you charging so much?
Nah.
You're just clicking a camera, right? But understanding that, dude, there's more to it, man. We got a whole storytelling. We got to make it fun for that client, man. We got to be able to help them out. So 10 years, 20 years down the line, they can look at that photo and be like, man, that is a work of art or that is timeless. And not be like, man, I should have gone with that other guy. this guy,
Right. Right.
this guy was no good, man.
Right. No, and that helps me segue into my next question that I had for you, bro. What is it that, what kind of feedback or what advice, that's the key word I was looking for. What advice do you give to new photographers that want to, do what you do?
Well, the first advice is look at YouTube, but don't buy everything you see on YouTube, man. You don't need thousands and thousands of dollars of camera gear to start, man. The best camera is the one you already have. And if you only own a cell phone and you want to get better at it, the principles of photography are still going to be the same even in a cell phone camera, right? There's apps that can put that camera in manual mode and learn, the exposure triangle, things like that, right? So first order of business is don't get suckered in, man, because
Hmm.
easily you can spend thousands of dollars on gear that later on, when you get to know what you're doing, you're gonna have a pile of stuff that you're gonna be like, man, I can't sell it anymore. It's so
Right.
outdated, and version 2 or 3 is out. Like, this stuff is obsolete, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The other thing is, if you can, when you have enough money that you're making some decent money, invest in your education, right? Yes, you can buy that badass lens, that 2870, that 85 1 point something, but if you don't know how to use it, if you don't know what you're doing with that lens, it's just a paperweight, man. So invest in education, whether that be tutorials, workshops, one-on-one. If you could go to school and you think that's going to be beneficial, man, invest in that, because that's going to show you what you're going to be capable of, right? And
Yeah.
and some school is good and some school is not good, right? Because they may teach you stuff that you're not even going to use, right? You just want to make sure that you go after the stuff that makes sense for what you're doing. The third thing would be, if when you do have that money, do invest in some lenses, right? Bodies, you can always buy a used body and get another one and so on because bodies you're gonna go through it. But a Canon lens like the 2870 costs you three something. That lens is gonna last you, I want to say at least 20 years, man. If you take care of it, it's gonna be a money maker, and after a certain amount of years, it's gonna make your money back, and you're just gonna put a different body behind that lens and make it even better, right? That would be some of the advice that I have. I guess the last one would be don't give up, man. Do not give up. Who cares what your friends, family, whoever may not look at your vision, man. If you like that vision, if you see yourself there, work hard, go after it, man.
Yep.
Forget what people have to say about that, man. In life, sometimes when you take the different road, it can be a lonely one, man, until you start finding like people, like-minded people around you. And then this is where, if you get married or you're married, man, I'm hoping you pick wisely, right? So that spouse is gonna back you up. And in my case, I've been nothing but blessed that my wife is just 100% like, dude, you have a vision, go for it, man. Like we
Right.
believe in you type of deal. So that would be something that I would say, don't give up, man. Keep going. For you're gonna have hard times, and my light went out again.
The light went out again. Man, he was getting deep into the
I was getting
motivational
deep in it, man.
speaking, bro. My man was deep in like he was going. I'm over here inspired on my side
Inspire,
of
right?
the
Give me a
of the
second. Give me a second. Let me go get another light.
all right. So I'm over here inspired myself. And I mean, like David's saying, I can't agree with him anymore. You can't give up in this industry. I think he mentioned earlier in the show that there's a lot of photographers that come into the game and maybe not put enough energy into their style or learning their gear. But like he's saying, invest into your education, man. This guy is doing workshops out in New York, out in coming to Texas, even in his own area, right? In his own county, he's out there learning from different photographers, A, the photography technique, B, the side of photography business. And, you know, you got to continue education. I mean,
Yes.
I personally, try to attend 2 to 3 different workshops per year just to see what else I can learn, because you can never stop learning in this industry.
For sure, man. I'm
Um,
back.
my guy, he said, "Let there be light," and then light
Yeah,
came back
man.
on, homie.
So one thing you learn about doing the next Zoom meeting, man, make sure that they have a constant light plugged into power and
I
not
sh-
using batteries, man.
I could have told you that, bro. I could have told.
I don't do this all the time, so I just realized, oh man, these batteries go quick, man.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Well, check this out, bro. Hey, right before we wrap up, man,
Yeah.
let the listeners know, what do you have any personal upcoming projects? Like,
Well, we have every year. So something I learned really quick, and you may know this photographer now. He's actually pretty famous. What's his what's his name? Geez, he's a Canon Explorer of Light guy. So he's well known. He's been in the industry for years. I'm blessed enough that we have Canon Irvine where they actually have a showroom. So he
okay,
did a talk a few years and I actually went and saw him in person. He shoots a lot of portraits of sports, does a lot of really cool stuff. And one of the things he talked about was you gotta do personal projects, right? Like personal stuff where it's not client work, but stuff that you really enjoy and push yourself. So that being said, we do have stuff where I get involved where I don't normally put stuff out on social media that's not quinceañera or wedding related. But we are right now, we're thinking of going to New York. We got invited. I'm not sure, it's not final yet. We got invited. We might go and shoot like a fashion type of thing. It
okay,
sounds pretty exciting, pretty cool.
that
That's
sounds
something
fun.
that's something that may happen. The other one is that we once or twice a year we go out and shoot and do something different. So this year I started off the year that way. We went to Vegas and I shot in the desert. I wanted to use smoke bombs. I went through heck going trying to grab smoke bombs only because in California, man, you can't get smoke bombs that easily because of issues that have happened in the past. So I got the smoke bombs. I got different, wardrobe, and we're doing something different in the desert, and we got to do it. Unfortunately for me, the smoke bombs that day were useless because the wind was blowing and it just didn't work, right? But we were able to get some really cool images, casinos, the stairwell cases and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
that kind of work project I love, and we're hoping later this year to go to another city and be able to do something like that. We did it last year. We did it in New York. If you go to my Instagram, you see like the first page photo you see there is of a girl in a red dress that was done in New York, and I'm really proud of myself on that end because I was able to bring all the resources of going into a town. I had no idea I knew anybody, and walked away with having a store that is well known in that area, just letting you borrow a dress and meeting makeup and hair, and having buddies now that if I was to call them and be like, hey, I'm in town, can we set up a shoot? Can happen without an issue, right? So that is the goal. That is the next project. We're hoping that may happen in a few cities. We're not sure yet. We're thinking maybe Miami, going to Dallas, so it may happen there, or it may happen in outside the U.S. Most likely, maybe Mexico. We're still unsure of the dates and the time because unfortunately I got things that pend around me. I got the clients, and obviously I got to serve, and then I have a family too that I got to take care of. Where I can't just get out of here for a week and be like, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Those days are over, man. We got kids to worry about. So
Right.
we got a couple of things going. They're in the back burner, and hopefully bringing them to fruition sometime in the middle of the year next year. Um, I got a personal stuff happening. Maybe
Was
we'll should I let it? Maybe I should.
I mean, you
Uh,
already brought it up. You're
you
not gonna
already
leave
brought
us
it up, man, and
hanging.
leave that crowd. Hey, part two, man, in Dallas. We'll talk
Yeah.
about it. No, so this year I'm gonna have 10 years being married, man. I'm gonna have my 10-year anniversary. Although I never really had a wedding, I got married through the court. And one of the one of the things that my wife has always brought up was, you're a photographer and you shoot these beautiful brides with their veil flowing. And how come I don't have that? And I'm like, well, we can make it happen. So it started off with, we're gonna do a photo shoot, and you're gonna be dressed up as a bride. I'm gonna dress up as a groom, and maybe we'll do it here, maybe we'll go somewhere else. And then that started, snowballing into all of a sudden now we're having a full-on wedding later this year, man. So
Well,
so we're gonna
congratulations.
celebrate 10 years of anniversary. 10
That's
years
incredible.
later, 3 kids later, we're finally gonna have that wedding we didn't have 10 years ago because it just didn't happen.
Well, congratulations, brother. I will be expecting my save the
Invite?
date.
It's on a
Uh,
Saturday, bro. Are you gonna be able to make it?
well, if the date's available, I will make every effort to be out
I
there
will
for to
I will
celebrate you
send
and
you
your wife.
I will send you the date shortly, and if you put it out there, man, if you're available, I'm gonna need you here in LA, man.
I
You
got you, homie.
you can
I
either be
got
a guest, and if you get antsy, you're welcome to grab one of my cameras and send
you.
it my
That's for
guys.
sure. That's
For
for
sure,
sure.
no. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
for
no,
sure.
man. So we're excited about that. That's why we're limited on what we can do because I'm putting together a whole wedding, man. Now I relate to the customers when they call me. I'm like, I get you, mom. I know you're on a budget because I'm on a budget. I don't
Yeah.
want to go into the thousands of thousands for one night. We got to make sure we get what's important, right? On
Yep.
that end. So
Invest in what matters the most.
yes, yeah. Where do you want your buck to go? A long way on that end. So yeah, man.
Awesome,
So
brother.
that's happening. I mean, quite a bit, right? For beginning of the year. I'm excited. The year's awesome. Hopefully you got stuff going on, this year. How's your year looking?
Oh, it's picking up, brother. It's
Oh,
picking
good.
up. Yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good, good,
It's
good.
it's it's usually this slow, the very first,
Right.
couple weeks of the year. And everybody it starts picking up. Everybody's starting to recover from New Year's and
And
Christmas
tax
and all
money
the
coming in.
you know what I mean? And yeah, so people are starting to get their, tax season's coming.
Yeah.
So it's picking up and it's a
Good,
blessing,
good,
you just
good,
got to
good.
be patient. That's one thing that I've learned.
For
Just be
sure.
patient. Even though sometimes patience is not there, you just got to learn to be patient.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. I've been there, and this is why when you have your own business, man, and this is what you do. I admire the people that are at the top, right? There's this female photographer that she's also a Canon Explorer Light, and she talked about her journey. It was like 20 years, and she finally got named, Canon Explorer Light, and she's also like a ambassador for Pro Photo. And she talked about her journey and how she started. And in my head, I'm like, you're only she knows the blood, sweat, and tears she had to put in to get to where she's at, right?
Right.
It's cool. Everybody sees in social media, oh, look, she's at the top, at the pinnacle of her career. She's doing this and that. And everybody sees that success, but nobody sees the background, man. Like the day to day, the beginning of the hustle, the year may not be as complete. And by the end of the year, thank God now you're good for the year. And that can be nerve-wracking, man, especially when you have kids, you have a
Mhm.
family that depend on you. I can see that, right? I
Yeah.
in my short little career that I've had so far, I've had some times where I'm like, man, this isn't, it's worth it, but boy, does it hurt.
Yeah.
Boy, does it hurt,
Yeah.
does it hurt not being able to do sometimes what you thought was going to happen. And, life is life, right? They throw things at you and you're like, what can you do?
Yeah.
Old saying, when life gives you lemonades, make lemonade
Yeah.
out of
Well, yeah.
it type of deal, right?
For sure. For sure. You're making me thirsty now, homie.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, brother, it's always a pleasure. It's been a fantastic conversation. Man,
Same
and
here.
I just loved every single minute, even though we had a couple incidents with the batteries and the camera overheating, but it's part of the journey,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for
It's
sure.
part of the journey. Let the world know, man, how can they find you? Where can they find you and all that good stuff?
So currently, the only main social media platform that I have where I'm like a teenage girl, and shout out to the other teenage girls out there, is Instagram at Cumatz Photography, and that's Cumatz, photography. Next spot is my website on that end. Check out the stuff that we're doing. But I want to say Instagram is the latest thing. TikTok, even though it's probably the hottest platform, I feel like I'm a stranger on there. Once in a while, I'll post. I do have a profile, but I think I use it for more as a venting for me to look at other people's funny videos and just laugh a little bit on that. And but yeah, you can just find me on Instagram. Maybe soon we'll create a YouTube channel, but I'm thinking more of not necessarily like a podcast style, but more of like motivational stuff, man. Get you in there for
Yeah.
2 to 5 minutes, like man, get it going, get it going,
Get
don't
your
give up.
butt up today.
Yeah. There's something like that. Yeah. And maybe talk about gear and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it's hard, man. I mean, my shout out to you being able to stay consistent, man, because between clients and projects, past clients, 3 kids and a wife, the business, it is hard, man. Sometimes I don't have time for doing my own personal stuff. Sports have suffered this year. I don't really watch NFL as much as I used to, or in sports in general, because, you know, the business has been the forefront for me, right? But yeah,
There you go.
shout out to you, man, being able to be consistent on this platform and bringing in some really cool speakers. And thank you so much, man, for having me. Hopefully, anything I said out there to your audience hasn't been rambling, but some good tidbits here and there. Maybe something you can pick up. My DMs are always open. If you have a question, lighting, camera, life, what I ate for lunch, man, you are welcome to ask. And nothing's too embarrassing for me, man. I'll
Right.
be happy to help you out on that end.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Again, it was a pleasure, and you're an incredible person to talk to. And everybody that listened to David, man, this guy is incredibly amazing. Y'all go make sure you follow him. Make sure you are just in tune with his work because you will be surprised. And I know it's only going to get better and better and better, y'all. So that wraps it up for our episode today. And as always, y'all, guard your heart and guard your mind, y'all. Y'all take care. Peace. Thank you,
Have a good
brother.
one,
Thank you.
guys. Take care.